Hi everyone, and welcome back to another EU4 video. Today, we're going to be doing a guide for the nation of the Papal States in EU4 1.34. Before this video begins, don't forget to leave a like on the video and consider subscribing as it helps out the channel immensely. And now let's jump into the Papal States. You'll be able to conquer all of Italy and expand more into Europe or into Anatolia and the Balkans or into North Africa if you'd like to blob. And the Papal State actually has a special formidable nation called the Kingdom of God, where you have to control these provinces here, and you get a claim on basically everything, and it changes your name to the Kingdom of God. For your opening moves as the Papal States, I recommend looking at your mission tree and see what you can do here right off the bat. We have this mission here to form the Swiss Guards, so go ahead and send one diplomat to improve with Switzerland, and then go ahead and send another diplomat to improve with the Lithuanians. If we improve with the Lithuanians and get their relations high enough, they'll be able to convert all of these Orthodox provinces that they have here. For your alliances as the Pope, I recommend allying Austria on day one. The reason we want to ally Austria is because we want to join the HRE, as all of the people we want to fight here in northern Italy are going to be in the HRE. So in order for us to attack them, we have to improve with Austria so we can join the Empire. For your states, I recommend giving out religious diplomats, religious state, and clerical advisory council, but we'll do that once we stab up stab 1, as that increases the civility cost. The nobility, I recommend you give strong duchies, supremacy over the papacy, and primacy of the nobility. For the burghers, I recommend you give out private trade fleets, free enterprise, patronage of the arts, and indebted to the burghers. Oh, and don't forget to give out land of commerce. For these advisor discount privileges, we will give these out after we stab up to stab 1, as you can see here. So we'll give out the aristocratic counselors and all the rest of these after we stab up. And you can summon the Diet, choose whichever agenda is best for you. I'm going to choose this one here. And after you give out all the privileges, make sure you sell titles and seize land. As the Pope, we start out with quite a lot of crown land, so we're able to sell titles and give out all of these privileges and still have quite a lot of crown land to spare. And once you send your diplomats to their relative areas, you can go ahead and build up some more light ships. I recommend building up 5 to 8 light ships and some extra galleys. And the light ships you start with, go ahead and send them to wherever they're going to make the most profit. In my case, they're going to make the most profit protecting Genoa, so send them to Genoa and to go home during war. For your rivals, the Papal States, I recommend rivaling whoever has rivaled you here. In our case, Burgundy has rivaled us, so I'm going to go ahead and rival Burgundy, Provence, and Venice. And once you selected your rivals, you can go ahead and unpause, wait for some diplomats to come back. For your second alliance, I recommend allying someone over here in northern Italy. In my case, I'd recommend Milan, since they will be able to help you out against Venice. So go ahead and improve with Milan if you can't ally them right off the bat, and continue to improve with Switzerland and Lithuania. With that spare diplomat that we have, we're going to go ahead and spy on Aragon so we can attack them for the province of Naples. What Aragon is going to go ahead and do almost all the time is they release Naples from being their personal union. So what we're going to go ahead and do is wait for Aragon to release Naples so we can attack them. As the Pope, you're able to select this interaction here called Enact a Golden Bull. These Golden Bulls will give you various things you can see here: Curia Powers costs, Yearly Absolutism, Institution Embracement costs, Institution Spread, this one for the Imperial Growth Authority, and the Development costs. Go ahead and select the Institution Embracement costs. The reason you want to do that is because we are going to be getting the Renaissance very soon, so that'll help spread it in our provinces. And once you finish improving with whichever northern Italian nation that you can ally, you can either ally Savoy or Milan. In my case, I'm going to ally Milan since they'll help against Venice. Go ahead and ally them. They'll help you out in your wars. And after you ally Milan, go ahead and use that free diplomat now to continue to improve with Austria. We want to improve with Austria so we can join the HRE, so we are able to attack these other people that we're going to get claims on shortly. At this point, even though we don't make too much money, we should at least hire an advisor to go ahead and focus on mill, as you should always do in the beginning of your games. So I'm going to go ahead and hire this mill advisor, and hire a Diplo advisor. If you can get a Diplo rep or improve relations, that's good. I have one here, so I'm going to go ahead and hire him. And for your admin, it's really up to you if you want the national unrest or the inflation. I'm going to go ahead and hire the inflation guy. And once you get Lithuania up to 100 relations, you should be able to take this mission, Eastern Catholicism. It gives you some devotion. It basically makes the Lithuanians able to convert these Orthodox provinces a lot easier. As the Papal States, you have these things called papal actions. One of the things you can do is call a crusade. This basically lets you call a crusade against any heathen countries that you can see. In our case, they're all Muslim countries. It also allows you to excommunicate certain people. Now, this is very useful, especially if you want to attack a nation, as it basically allows for only 50% of the normal aggressive expansion that you would normally take from taking provinces. You can't excommunicate all people. You can only excommunicate people that you have a negative opinion of. So in my case, it's Venice. So I'm going to go ahead and excommunicate Venice. Another thing that you can do here is appoint a cardinal. Now, this basically allows you to give any country that is Catholic a cardinal, and with that cardinal, they can use it to influence the Holy See. It increases their chance of becoming the next superior controller. As you can see, it'll show you how many cardinals that they have. Venice has 1, we have 0, England has 2. So what you can go ahead and do is if there is a country that you want to become very friendly with you and you want to increase your relations with them quickly, you can go ahead and give them a cardinal. I'm going to give one to Castile. You get the option to use the Curia Treasury. Always use the Curia Treasury, otherwise you have to pay for this with your own money, so don't pay for it with your own money. As you can see here, it'll increase their opinion of us by 50, and it'll give us 10 more influence to become the papal controller. So go ahead and use this sparingly, and give it to nations that you want to increase their opinion of you. And once you have free diplomat, remember, start spying on some of these nations here. The ones that are in the HRE, go ahead and start spying on Siena, as Siena is going to be your first war. And once you have Switzerland's opinion of you up to 100, you can go ahead and take this mission, the Swiss Guard. The Swiss Guard is basically a merc company, a special merc company available only to the Papal States. They have some extra discipline and things like that. And they do not cost any army professionalism when they're hired. So go ahead, once you complete this mission, select They Will Defend the Church Well. And by this point in the game, you should get the event called the Neapolitan Succession. Basically, if Naples refuses to submit, you will get this pop-up here where you can recognize the old Angevin claims, and France will get some claims on them. You can force Naples to submit, or you need not force the issue. I recommend you take the middle option. This will give you a subjugation CB on Naples, which we won't use because Naples is way too big to subjugate. However, go ahead and select this. Now, the reason that I told you originally to fabricate a claim on Aragon so that you can claim Naples was because as soon as Naples becomes independent, they won't have any allies. So we're going to go ahead and raise our army maintenance, raise our forts, and attack Naples for the conquest of Napoli. Depending on when Naples is released, your first war will either be Naples or Siena. But make sure one of the first nations that you spy on in your Papal States game should be Aragon, so you can fabricate a claim on Naples before Naples gets some big allies. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Naples for the conquest of Napoli. Go ahead and white peace them like I did. You're going to want to fight Provence very soon, as you're going to want to take this whole state. And for the peace deal with Siena, just go ahead and full annex them. It's not too much AE, and the reason I told you for the Neapolitan War to keep your AE under 40, as we want to annex these provinces here, and they are a lot of dev, and if we did take more provinces from Naples, we actually wouldn't be able to fully annex Siena. So make sure, if you are fighting Siena, just go ahead and full annex them. By this point in the game, the Venetians actually should be at war with the Ottomans. The Venetians always guarantee Albania, and as you can see, the Ottomans will always attack Albania. So by this point, if the Venetians are at war with the Ottomans, now is the time to strike. At least one of your allies should join. In my case, since this war popped off so early, I actually don't have enough favors to call the Austrians in without giving them land, so I'm not going to call them in. I'm just going to call in Milan to help me out. This shouldn't be too much of a difficult war, so if the Ottomans declare war on Albania and the Venetians get called in, make sure you attack, as the Venetians will be distracted with the Ottomans. See if you can get Austria in. In my case, this war popped off too early, so I can't call Austria, but at least get one of your northern Italian allies to help you out. So if you're fighting Venice, go ahead and attack Venice for the reconquest of Ravenna. And by this point in the game, the Renaissance should have spawned. Actually, the Renaissance spawned in Venice while I'm at war with them. If the Renaissance spawns and you haven't taken the Papal Bull, which spreads institution, go ahead and take that. You're able to take these Papal Bulls every time your Pope dies or when there's a new Kira controller, so always do that. And if you haven't taken this one that spreads the institution, go ahead and take it, as it'll make embracing the Renaissance much easier. For your Tier 2 government reform as the Papal States, I recommend taking either Commercial Mission for that extra merchant or External Mission. Now, it depends on what you're going to be doing. If you're going to be playing tall, I recommend taking Commercial Mission, or if you're going to start blobbing everywhere, then take External Mission. And for your peace deal with Venice, you should take something like this. Of course, retake your core in Ravenna, and take these 2 provinces up in the north. Don't take more than 2 up in the north, just because you'll be getting more aggressive expansion, and you don't want to waste it here in Venice. So go ahead and just take 2 in the north. However, if Venice still has some of their holdings here in Dalmatia, go ahead and take Spalato or one of these here, so you can go ahead and release Dalmatia as a vassal, take all of their money, and take war reps, and make them annul some alliances that they might have. I'm going to make them annul with Savoy, and that'll be your peace deal. Take these provinces here in Italy, and take one in Dalmatia. Take all of Venice's money, make them annul an alliance if they have one here, like with Savoy, and that's it. And like I said, take Spalato so you can go ahead and release Dalmatia. They should have cores on most of Dalmatia here. As you can see, they have cores on some of the Venetian provinces and some provinces into Hungary. By this point in the game, the Shadow Kingdom event likely fired, and you'll be faced with the decision of whether to stay in the Empire or to leave. Now, if you are allied to Austria and Austria is still the Emperor, like in my game, go ahead and select our country as a natural part of the Empire. We won't face any of the penalties to the unrest or the prestige. Since we're allied to the Emperor, we'll just lose the prestige up front. In my case, it is especially important to stay in the Empire, as Florence actually has stayed since they are allied to Austria. So before you select either of these decisions, go ahead and make sure that Austria is still the Emperor, and select our country is a natural part of the Empire. After your war with the Venetians, go ahead and see which country here in Italy will be your next target, and look at the alliance networks. As you can see, I can attack Bologna since they're only allied to the 3 leagues, or go after Ferrara. Basically, what we are trying to do is to complete this mission here, where you have to have a certain amount of provinces in the Abruzzo or in the Emilia-Romagna area. So go ahead and look and see who you can attack. We basically need to attack either Ferrara or Bologna, and look in this situation to see who is easiest. And you should have been improving with your vassals, that you should be able to annex them. Go ahead and annex your vassals, just annex whoever is available. In my case, it's Urbino. And remember, when you're annexing your vassals, don't forget to give the nobility integration policy. It's going to give them a bit of influence, but it'll prevent you from getting the diplo rep penalty from annexing your vassal. And now it is time to declare your next war. You should have been able to spy on either Ferrara or Bologna. In my case, I spied on Bologna since they have a really easy alliance network. Regardless of who it is, go ahead and spy on them and declare the war. And once you're done with Bologna, just go ahead and full annex them. Don't worry about the AE. They don't have a lot of dev. For your first idea group as the Pope, I recommend taking Divine Ideas. This is a custom idea group exclusive to theocracies. Divine Ideas just has a lot of really good things wrapped in there. You get the extra dev costs, the less fire damage received, the cost of reducing war exhaustion, and that leader cost is very nice. The extra morale, which is great. The culture conversion cost, which you should be using if you're blobbing. The national unrest, which is very nice, and the manpower and troop faith provinces plus 20%, which basically equates to plus 20% national manpower, as all of your provinces will be Catholic. And the finishing here is quite nice for the clergy loyalty equilibrium. So for your first idea as the Pope, go ahead and take divine ideas. Oh, and I'm not at war with Granada. Castile just called me in because they're failing miserably. And once you embrace the Renaissance, you should be able to complete the mission Found the Vatican Library. This will give you an option to establish the Vatican Library and choose which works you get. Admin works gives you admin tech costs and less national unrest. Diplo gives you Diplo tech costs and extra Diplo reputation. And Mil gives you less military technology costs and arms tradition from battles. Depending on what you're doing, you can pretty much pick whichever one you want. However, since I know most people are drawn to the military one, and a lot of people who want to blob for the Kingdom of God, you're going to have to fight a lot of battles. So in my game, I'm going to choose Fund a Library about the military arts. And now that you're done building a spy network and you fought someone here in Italy, go ahead and attack another Italian nation. In my game, I already attacked Bologna. You might have attacked Ferrara earlier, you might attack them later, but now I'm going to go ahead and attack Ferrara for the conquest of Modena. When playing in Italy and doing peace deals, always make sure and see who people are allied with. In my case, Florence is actually allied to Austria. Oftentimes, these Italian states will ally other great powers, especially great powers that you're allied to, which will make expansion difficult. So always make sure when you're doing peace deals, see if there are alliances that you can annul. So I'm going to go ahead and force Florence to annul their treaty with Austria and take all of their money. For the Ferraran peace deal, what you can do is just go ahead and fully annex them. Sometimes Ferrara will attack Mantua and they might have a third province or even a fourth province if Venice became really weak. If that's the case, just take these two provinces here, as these are the only ones that we need for the mission tree. You don't really want to take any more, as it will be too much aggressive expansion. So just take these two provinces, take all of their money, and send it. And as you can see, we've actually completed the mission, which gives us even more claims on Italy. As you can see, we have claims on all of Florence on the bottom there, although we fabricated that one, and on Savoy and Genoa. And after you finish this mission here, where you conquer all of the needed provinces, you can go ahead and take this mission to crush the Italian cities. Now, you should be looking at where to conquer based on your mission tree, so in my game, pretty much the only people I can conquer are Savoy and Florence, since Genoa no longer exists. They got destroyed by Florence. And in my case, I'm going to go ahead and declare on Savoy. For your first age ability as the Pope, I recommend taking Justified Wars. One thing to offset this AE, if you're in a situation like me where you have to take a lot, is make sure that you tell your merchants here to collect in Genoa. It won't make you the most money. However, what you can do is, I'm already doing it here in Venice, is tell your merchants to establish communities. This will passively improve with nations who have merchants in this trade node. So go ahead and do that to avoid a coalition. And for the peace deal, we're just going to go ahead and take this, take as much money as we can carry. Savoy is probably not going to be around for much longer, so I'm just going to take this and go. And by this point in the game, you should have some money saved up and have paid off all your loans, where you are able to take more burger loans, bigger burger loans, and use it to build buildings. The buildings that you should be prioritizing are trade buildings. Make sure you build buildings in centers of trade. I'm going to build one in Rome. Go ahead and build one in Naples if you can afford it, and just build some other buildings as well. Make sure you build production buildings in high value trade goods such as paper. Salt is also high value trade good, cloth, and even some churches. See where they can give you the most money. I'm going to build one in Spoleto, and if you have any estate agendas, make sure that you fulfill those. Also, another thing that you want to be doing is make sure that you are upgrading your centers of trade. Usually you start with one in Rome, and you'll probably get one from Naples, Florence, and Lucca, etc. So make sure that you upgrade your centers of trade when you can afford it. And during this time, what you should be doing is building some buildings, coring up your provinces, and making sure that your diplomats are set to improve with outraged countries. we're just going to do this, chill for a little bit, let our aggressive expansion tick down, and get ready for our next war. Depending on when you attacked Venice, your truce should probably start to be over by now. In my case, my truce with Venice has just ended. One thing that I have mentioned and that you need to continue to do when you are about to declare a war as the Papal States, make sure to check to see who you can excommunicate. In my game, I can excommunicate both Florence and Venice, and since I am about to attack Venice, I'm going to go ahead and excommunicate them. What this does, if you didn't know, for the Excommunication CB, is it allows you to take provinces for way less aggressive expansion than you would otherwise be able to incur. So go ahead and do this. It'll also make their alliance partners not really like them as much since they'll be excommunicated, and sometimes they won't join. In our case, everyone in their alliance network is going to join, unfortunately, but don't worry, we can go ahead and call in France and Castile. And that war with Venice was really easy. Since I had basically two of the most powerful nations in the world, I had Castile and France on my side. For the peace deal with Venice in your second war with them, if you have released Dalmatia, go ahead and give back the Dalmatian cores that Venice has, and depending on how your aggressive expansion is looking at this time, that will determine which peace deal you take. As you can see, in Italy, we have quite a bit of aggressive expansion, so we don't want to go too crazy. For whatever reason, Naples took that province. I don't really know why. But in our peace deal, we're going to do something like this. You could take everything, however, that would incur a lot of aggressive expansion. This still is not a very bad coalition. However, you need to remember that we need to attack Florence for these provinces that they have in order to continue down our mission tree. So you don't want to incur too much AE on stuff that isn't involving your mission tree. So I'm just going to go ahead and take something like this just to prevent Austria from maybe attacking them, and give Dalmatia back their cores, try to take some money here, and send it. Oh, and I didn't declare this war on Poland. Austria called me in. And by this point in the game, your realm should look a little something like this. We reconquered Dalmatia's cores, which were held by Hungary. However, Hungary got destroyed by the Ottomans and Bohemia. We used the Excommunication CB on our rivals here. We used the Excommunication CB on Florence, which allowed me to take pretty much all of the Florentine cores here. We also used the Excommunication CB on Venice, which allowed you to take pretty much all of Venice's provinces. They only have 3 provinces left, including their capital of Venice there. And by this point, you should have also taken a lot of the Milanese provinces. Do watch out for your AE, as by this point in the game, your aggressive expansion will be very high with people in Italy and will actually start to leak out into the Holy Roman Empire. So you need to be very careful, as it is quite easy to get a very big coalition very easily as the Pope, as you're able to conquer massive amounts of Italy in a very short amount of time. We were also able to take espionage ideas for our second idea group. And the reason you should take espionage ideas over, let's say, trade or Diplo is because, number one, espionage allows you to get less aggressive expansion, and as the Pope, you already get negative 20% aggressive expansion impact from being the Curia controller, and espionage ideas gives you an additional minus 20% aggressive expansion impact, which doesn't even take into account the extra 50% aggressive expansion impact modifier that you can get by excommunicating people, and you should be doing that in Italy as the Pope. Look to see, before you fight anyone, especially your rivals, look to see if you can excommunicate them, and if you can, make sure you do, as that'll make expansion way easier and you will incur way less aggressive expansion, especially if you have taken espionage ideas like I recommend. For your continuation of your campaign, I recommend completing this mission here. Follow the Papal mission tree. It'll tell you exactly what to do and when to do it. Make sure you sweep the Po, complete that, and get the claims here. These claims will allow you to expand further into southern Italy, and once you have taken all of the required provinces, you can actually form the Kingdom of God, which is an incredibly powerful tag unique to the Papal States that only the Pope can form. And this tag will basically allow you to fight the entire world, you'll be able to pretty easily expand into North Africa, Anatolia, the Balkans, and Egypt, pretty much all the areas held by heathens. You can also expand into Iberia if you want. You can form kind of a holy papal Roman Empire if you so wish. You plan on forming the Kingdom of God and blobbing. And for your third idea group, you should really take, depending on what you are trying to do, if you are trying to play a tall Papal States game, then go ahead and take economic ideas for all of these dev discounts and the building discounts. However, if you plan on forming the Kingdom of God, which I recommend, and blobbing around and bringing Christianity to all the unbelieving heathens of the world, then go ahead and take quality ideas, as this will allow you to buff up your army significantly and allow for some great policies with divine and espionage. For your fourth idea group here, I recommend taking either economic if you didn't in your third idea group, or quality if you didn't take it for your third idea group. It's really up to you depending on which one you take first. However, during your game you should take economic, and into your fifth and sixth idea groups, if you even play that far, it's ultimately up to you. Same for your seventh and eighth economic ideas. It's really ultimately up to you and what you were trying to accomplish in your game. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking either curtail clerical privileges for that extra tech discount and for the clergy influence. Remember, you will have quite high clergy influence as the Papal States. Or if you want to stack even more advisor discounts, then take expand temple rights for the extra modifiers from having temples and the extra negative 10% advisor discount. However, do be careful with the clergy influence. For tier 5, I recommend you take monastic breweries, as this will basically boost the production of both grain and wine, as you can see here. So it'll turn these normally not very good grain provinces into actually provinces that will produce you quite a lot of production income. For tier 6, I recommend you take this one here, as it'll allow you to get extra manpower in your truth faith provinces, which, if most of your provinces in Italy remain Catholic, this will basically translate to an extra 10% national manpower. And keep in mind, with divine ideas, we get an extra 20% in truth faith provinces, so taking that reform will actually give you plus 30% national manpower. For tier 7, I recommend taking either embrace free trade or embrace the economic theory. For tier 8, I recommend taking combat heresy if you plan on blobbing and plan on forming the Kingdom of God, which I recommend you do. Or if you plan on just playing a tall Papal States game, then take pursuit of knowledge. For tier 9, I recommend taking clerical commission. For tier 10, I recommend taking faith and power, especially if you are blobbing out and forming the Kingdom of God. For tier 11, you can ultimately really take any of these here. I'd recommend taking cultural safe haven, as the manpower in your same culture provinces is great. This will just continue to stack over and over with your already very impressive manpower modifiers. However, you can take really any of these in tier 11. The only really mid one that isn't that great is the taxation of foreigners. For tier 12, I recommend taking the Global Crusade, as this will basically allow you to have the Holy War CB without taking religious ideas. As far as the Curia Controller goes and the Holy See, continue to try and ensure that you maintain control of it. Keep calling the Ecumenical Council, keep issuing cardinals like I've showed you here, which will give you the instant papal influence, and keep spending money to appoint loyalists as cardinals. This has been a guide for the nation of the Papal States in EU4 1.34. Let me know what other nations I should do guides on in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing, as it helps out the channel immensely. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time for another EU4 video.